All right. So, who knows how to locate Zanzibar on the map?
Now I do, but
Now
I
you
actually looked before.
Do you know in which continent it is? Do you know in which country it is? So, Tanzania, and it's an autonomous republic, right? And so I'll tell you about the product, but I'll start explaining how we got into all this. So 2023, I read Balaji's book. I found it extremely interesting from a methodology perspective, pretty off in terms of the kinds of markets that interest me. So pretty off the reality of LATAM, Africa, Southeast Asia. But I thought that the methodology really made sense on how to innovate at a high scale under a small perimeter, startup style, high intensity of technology, trial and error, and how to find a methodology of building a small unit of autonomous governance. So at that point in early 2024, I wrote a paper. This paper was all about getting an initial concession and the opportunity to build an entire legal and tech system for an autonomous zone. And I met a guy called Florian in Rio, not at Mata, in another place of the city. And this 30-minute discussion that was just to meet and get to know each other became a 8-hour non-stop discussion. And at the end of 8 hours, he purchased me a direct flight ticket to Zanzibar for the next day from São Paulo. So I needed to find an emergency flight to get to Zanzibar with him. So we went there, spent a week there, and after a few days in Zanzibar, we basically created a joint venture, a partnership to actually operate the zone. So this is what Zanzibar Stone Town mostly looks like. A few people on the team have been there. So if you want to make sure I'm not lying, ask Breno, he's been there. He knows everything about it now. And we'll cover what is the Zanzibar Digital Economic Zone. So, from very high-level concepts such as network states, our take at Tools for the Commons is to materialize this from a cloud-first, land-last, but not land-never perspective, orchestrating those zones. So you saw many projects talking about the digital economic zone, and we are an orchestrator of the zone. So we work with Floripa Days, we work with Mata. We just signed the zone in Nigeria called Itana, and I'll actually miss the P12 party to go to Lagos for this. And we really believe in these very powerful forces uniting the South, starting with South America and Africa, from a lifestyle, tech leapfrog, and entrepreneurial perspective. And every culture is different, every country is different, every legal framework is different, but we have the opportunity to unite and to create new standards from a digital perspective to create this sort of digital state, digital zone that is a single repository, and then the residents and future citizens of the zones can then cherry pick the localities that they want to live in, such as Zanzibar, Rio, Nigeria, Florianopolis, and so on. So the core principles for us are to ignite digital commerce. E-commerce, digital commerce represents around 20% of the GDP and represents 95% of the top market capitalizations, and will represent about 55% of gross domestic product by 2040, which means that as a government, in 20 years from now, it's more important to fix and to tax the world of bits than the world of atoms from a fiscal policy perspective, because there will be more GDP under the digital construct, and there's already much more transactions and market cap for digital company. So we build this for digital commerce, for Web3, for AI, for SaaS, and we look for efficiency and scale with this combo of physical and digital components. So which are the parties? It's a PPP, public-private partnership. You've heard this morning about education-based PPP, but you can also do governance-based PPP. So if you look, for instance, at Rio in Mata, it's a PPP as well with an organization called CCPAR, which is Companhia Carioca de Participações. That's the sovereign wealth fund of Rio. That's part of the deal. And in Zanzibar, we did this with two big allies. Number one is Hussein Mbweni. He's the president. He's actually the grandson of the founder of Tanzania, that basically created the country in the 60s, uniting 180 tribes to build the nation and subsequently build the state after decolonization. And he's his grandson. And Tanzania is actually a union of two republics, Tanganyika in the continent and Zanzibar, which is why you have the ZA, Tanzania, which is the merger of those two autonomous republics. And then Zanzibar then is already a concession from Tanzania that subsequently granted us another concession to run civil law, digital law, dispute resolution, and a new commercial code. And the champion within this environment picked was Zictia. Zictia is the equivalent of Anatel. So they are the main minority shareholder of the zone, and they represent the government. And their mission is to enforce Hussein's policy, that's the president of Zanzibar. And then we have Our World Holding, that's the majority holder of the zone. They are a venture creator. They own a decentralized cloud network that co-hosts the digital zone from a distributed perspective at the compute, network, and storage level, and Tools for the Commons running the software distribution and the digital governance layer. So we had a few milestones, including a presidential decree in late 2024, the PPP regulations enacted in multiple steps, the charter approved that we've been working on a lot, and part of the team is here, and we've been co-designing the charter, approved in June 2025, and the tax code enacted a month ago. So what's the unique value proposition? We can legally recognize sovereignty for an organization and for a resident. It's crypto native by design. It's zip code agnostic. So if any of you want to join the zone and become a Zanzibar Digital Free Zone resident, in the same way of Estonia with the e-residency program, I would highly recommend you to anyway pick a flight and discover the island. But if you wish to stay in Brazil and digitally join Zanzibar, you can also do that. It's transparent from a tax perspective, and it runs on this decentralized cloud infrastructure. So earlier today, you heard about this necessity to have cloud implemented at the core premise level, because to some extent, we will be making a lot of savings on HR because AI agents are taking over, but this cost is heading towards compute, right? So this is why at the core design, we had this compute component in the same way that Floripa Des has those clusters of Mac Minis. We believe that it's essential in those physical to lifestyle to digital components, mostly when it comes to attracting nomads. Ideal customer profile, Web3 and crypto, mostly for DeFi, for exchange, for financial infrastructure, AI native businesses, so anything between an autonomous agents. If some of you already have one or multiple agents, you can legally wrap them in the free zone, and they can run on an autonomous, secure, and distributed cloud with a legal autonomy for $20 a month, which is cheaper than the cheapest subscription of Claude, for instance. Global SaaS, so this is mostly the case for Itana in Nigeria, that is supposed to be positioned as an enterprise SaaS. And for SME SaaS, Zanzibar looks to have the most promising competitive advantage. Creators and nomads, we really want to revert the paradigm between, I would say, a closed, trapped jurisdiction to an opt-in and out, and we understand that creators have the opportunity to opt in any jurisdiction that they want and to stop being captive from a jurisdictional perspective, but to make governments compete for them. And this is exactly what we are doing, and we believe that through this infrastructure, Zanzibar is strategically positioned to onboard nomads. And finally, DAOs and co-ops. So that's something we often forget. We talk a lot about the state, we talk a lot about the markets, we talk a lot about companies and startups. But let's not forget that in humanity, and mostly in the global south, the main and predominant architecture and infrastructure of collaboration is not the state, and is not the market, and it's not even the family. It's a cooperative. Brazil itself, in Brazil, there's 12% of the GDP that runs on co-ops. And if we leave the large financial centers and the large capitals, and if we go even in Santa Catarina in the countryside, just half an hour from here, nobody will have a bank account at Bradesco, and nobody will care about what the municipality is doing, because the main architecture is the cooperative. People will have an account at, Sicredi. They will have, for healthcare, they will be using a co-op. And the co-op, that's the case in Brazil, 12% of GDP. That's around 35 million people who predominantly use co-ops. And in the world, it's 1 billion people out of 8 billion people, and most of them are in the global south, that mostly use cooperatives are the main infrastructure to connect to public goods. So more than the state, more than networks, more than crypto, and more than companies. And we're also onboarding cooperatives into the zone, and we are finalizing the drafts and programs for this. So what are the physical and digital components? There's a physical layer, so your physical data centers with physical residencies, with principles that are not so different from what you saw both in Mata and in Floripades. It's very pleasant places to live in. This is where we are. So Brad was discussing some plans in mainland Tanzania. So this is East Africa. On the bottom here, you have Dar es Salaam. That's the economic capital of the country. Right in front, you have the island of Ugunja. That's the main island of the archipelago of Zanzibar. Here you have Stone Town. And south Stone Town, you have the peninsula of Fumba, where we have a physical area with our local partners of 70 hectares, and we'll be building a charter city on it. And on the north here, you can see Pemba Island, where we are also negotiating another 30 hectares with our local partners. So, I mean, this is sci-fi, right? But we are open to receiving some plans. We are looking for real estate developers. We are looking for physical cities designers. We don't have this expertise in-house, neither our local partners. But this is typically one of the business plans we've been receiving, so open for discussions here. And on the digital layer that we run, we have this base decentralized internet layer. We have blockchain-based registries and IDs. We tokenize companies, we tokenize IDs, and we run also programmable finance for this. In terms of governance network, we provide legal certainty, so fast, cheap, and fast justice based on the code, the charter, the digital assets framework. And I'll show you the key terms and also invite you to join the zone. So key terms, 5% taxes on net income for digital residents, 15% taxes for physical residents, no capital gains. For a single company, it's a solopreneur like a May in Brazil, it's $20 a month. With all the services embedded here. For a startup, it's $50, and for a growth company of more than five shareholders, it's $100 a month. DaaS platform, you have all those services from payment, registry, residencies, invoices, data storage, dispute resolution, and asset management. You can run the entire journey to apply, run your KYC, register a company, operate your business, and pay your taxes. And this is where we tokenize, fund, and secure, and organize and orchestrate your digital life through, again, the RAMs. We are rolling out capital markets to fund those businesses as well that are registered on the zone, and running all the taxes and registries at the same time. So visit the platform, make your onboarding if it's something that could be of interest to you. You can register your company, again, from $20 a month up to $100. That's the QR code here. And I will also remind that we have this partnership with Floripades. So we operate under some white labels. So irrespective of your entry door, our operating system supports most of the industry. And if you are also like a builder from elsewhere, And if you want to have your own jurisdiction and own full stack software, but you want it to look like yours, we are super happy to help and to roll out that stack. So let's connect more and more Brazil and Africa, and I hope to see you digitally and or physically in Zanzibar. Thank you.